Welcome to a football show on the 440 Sports Network. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessean, flustered Nick Suss of the Tennessean. I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. Oh man, Carnell Tate has way better feet than that cat, Nick. Way better feet. How are you?
Good. Yeah, no, everything got knocked off my desk, but I caught most of it. So here we are. Let's do a podcast.
Much like Carnell Tate's passes yesterday at Titans OTAs. He caught everything. Lots of stuff to get to, and pretty excited to talk about football, Nick. Like, actually excited. Yes, we will touch on the Super Bowl, and yes, we will talk about seed oils, but mostly we will get to talk about football. And I get to show you all some football, so this is why you watch on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, but really YouTube is the place to go. And if you subscribe, you'll turn on the notifications. You'll know when these shows come out. Obviously, today on a Friday, we're doing it a little differently because we had practice to get to yesterday and wanted to have a conversation about that practice. And I think Titans fans should be, as much as you can be after one OTA in May, I think fairly excited about what is going on and what we saw on the field. If you're watching, we're going to play a bunch of different clips throughout the course of practice while we're talking. And so that's why you watch, right? That's why you watch. If you want to read, which is another form of consuming sports content, you can read Nick Suss's material over at the Tennessean, all kinds of great stuff. In fact, you can also watch Nick Suss now doing a lot of vertical video over there. But make sure you check out all of Nick's work over at the Tennessean. So you can read there. You can watch on YouTube. And if you're listening on the podcast app of choice, please give us 5 stars. Lots of you guys in the comments already. We will get to your questions throughout the course of the show. We've got to talk about Cam Ward. We've got to talk about Carnell Tate. We've got to talk about Brian Daboll. We've got to talk about the new offense. We've got to talk about seed oils. We've got to talk about the rookie class. We've got to talk about the Super Bowl. We've got to talk about Anthony Hill. We've got to talk about Will Levis. We got to talk about diets. Nick, there's a lot of stuff to discuss today on the show. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. This is our most jam-packed show in a long time. This is exciting. Let's talk about football.
That's right. Lots of stuff to get to today on the show. Sinkers Beverages for all your weekend beverage needs, or Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays. Make sure you go swing by Sinkers Beverages. I was over there on Thursday. Had to pick up some stuff for the missus over the weekend. We're having some family hanging out for Memorial Day. So if you're hanging out for the weekend, you're watching the race on Saturday, you're going to need some cold beer, maybe some Bloody Marys, maybe a bottle of champagne. I don't know what you guys consume on Memorial Day, but make sure you swing by Sinkers Beverages if you are hanging out over the weekend. I know you young folks are out on the lake and stuff during these holidays. Just have them send the booze directly to your party. So don't drive, of course. Be safe this weekend, but you can Uber all of that booze directly to your house or your party. If you just search on Uber Eats, Sinkers Beverages, and have it delivered right there. And make sure if you're drinking some beer this weekend, drink good local craft beer. East Nashville Beer Works, great beer. I got the East Bank. It's a Citra IPA, one of my favorites I'm going to be drinking this weekend. You got Yazoo Brewing Company, the OG, up in Madison, and you got Tennessee Brew Works downtown. So lots of great craft beer, and you can get all of that at Sinkers Beverages. Okay. Quickly, one more note, Nick. If you care about local journalism in Middle Tennessee, please take 5 minutes, fill out our survey. It's linked in the show notes on the podcast app and as well on YouTube. It's from Press Forward, an organization that is a nonprofit trying to help sort of establish a healthier, better version of local media in, I think, 44 different states. We have a chapter here, Press Forward Middle Tennessee, and there's a link there. It's Press Forward, MIDTN. .news. Click on that link. It takes literally less than 5 minutes. It's anonymous. It's very simple stuff, but it would help the organization sort of have a clearer picture of what's going on in our media ecosystem and all of you out there. What are your preferences? What are you consuming? What do you care about? So make sure you check that out, please, too, and fill out the survey. So, all right, lots of comments already. Good morning, fellas, says Bustin' Diamonds. Did you have your daily dose of seed oils this morning? I did last night. That is for sure. My kids' last day of school, so we went out for our fancy dinner, and there were things that were cooked in oil, for sure. Howdy, gents, says 10 Aloso. Hope the day is well. Retrodax, what, with such an overhaul in staff and personnel, do these OTAs feel and look any different than past years? Should I be as hype as I am? And I'll say this. Brian Daboll absolutely makes it feel and look and sound a lot different than the previous OTAs. There was a lot more energy in this OTA than I can remember. Is that your observation, first and foremost, Nick?
I would say that we spent a lot of time talking about Denard Wilson's energy his first year, so I don't want to say that there has been absence of energy from coaches, but I haven't seen this sort of offensive energy and this sort of offensive confidence. I know what's going to work kind of grin. I haven't seen that since I've been in Nashville, so that has been something to observe.
Here's another one. Is Cam what the kids would call slim thick? I can only guess what that means.
Oh, no, you don't have to guess. All the words are in the task right there. Like you know what those words mean.
Yeah, I guess so. He is down 10 pounds according to him, and I am so proud of the fact that I looked over at PK, and I think you might have been standing there too, and I go, guys, does Cam Ward look thinner to you? And this was before he talked about it, and absolutely he was lighter and moving a little quicker than he has in the past. He just looked like a professional athlete after coming out of college last year and being like a transitioning athlete. That's all.
It's also possible he wasn't wearing shoulder pads because I looked at the top and I'm like, whoa, he's way smaller up top. And it's also just possible I forgot that he wasn't wearing shoulder pads, but he was thinner. I was looking
around the waist area, like in the stomach area, and I just think he looked 10 pounds lighter.
Both Cam and Levis seemed to be smaller in the like bulging bicep department. I don't think there is as much of an emphasis on brute strength among quarterbacks, but we'll get to that later.
Ed Henry, I'm waiting for Nick's article that breaks down all year 2 quarterback completions during OTAs. Do you have that for over the last 50 years of the NFL?
No. The problem here is that many OTAs do not have reporters that are diligently taking play-by-play notes. Either that or they are, but they're not sharing them on Twitter and social media. So I got to figure it out the hard way because I cannot be at Giants and Saints OTAs right now.
Well, do better. Bustin' Diamond said his face looks skinnier. Jess says, morning, fellas. Nick, how was the rain the other day, says Nate. It's good to see all of you guys here on a Friday where we get to talk about football. So let's get started with the number one most important.
To answer Nate's question, it was wet. Okay, move on.
Yeah, it was wet.
It was wet, yeah.
More rain than seed oils. I learned watching some content on Tennessean.com. Make sure you go pay for good journalism over there. I wonder how much we will utilize play action this year, says Derek. Not having an elite back or tight end might harm our ability to effectively use play action. Okay, hold that thought, Derek. We're going to get to the offense and the general structure of the offense and the things that we thought we noticed about the offense. But let's start with the big one, which is really a great story because it's not a story at all. And that is Robert Saleh started by saying his entire press conference by saying, I think the first question from Teresa was about Cam Ward's arm and the surgery. And he basically said, he's great. Everything's great. Everyone's great. This time of year, everybody's great. It's all great. And he did not look like he had any lingering effects of an injury of any kind. No shoulder contraption under his pads or T-shirt and jersey. And so I think the big first thing we need to point out is that it's not a story right now. He didn't look like he was on a pitch count. He threw the ball very well. It looked like he was throwing it as hard as he normally does. Number one for me is no injury concerns for Cam Ward.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I was curious to see when you see videos on social media and you see it, you always wonder, okay, are they being selective here? Are they picking and choosing? Is this less scope than's actually happening? We went out there and saw it, and Cam was throwing the ball, and it looked like Cam throwing the ball. And I know Braden just put up some video, so if you're watching live, you can watch along. Cam throwing looked like Cam throwing. I didn't perceive any it didn't look like his arm slot changed at all. Braden might be able to speak to if he saw anything there, but the release seemed as quick as it normally did. The arm slot seemed more or less in the same place, maybe a little bit lower at times, but there were times where I saw him drop the shoulder a little bit and kind of throw the sidearm throw he likes to throw. When he threw deep, there was still a little bit of wobble on the throw, but there has always been a little bit of the wobble on the throw from Cam. I didn't really see anything that made me think he is unhealthy or his shoulder is unfit or even that his shoulder is on the mend. This looked like Cam. Right. And obviously it's going to be different when it's time to get hit, when it's time to actually lead with the shoulder, when it's time to do stuff that is going to he said yesterday that the consideration right now is not just getting healthy, but getting it healthy enough to ensure that another injury like this won't happen. And when you're doing that, that means a lot of work to build up the muscle differently and change the shape of your body and change the way you use your body. And that's a longer process than can he throw. But I would say that at the can he throw consideration right now, I came out of yesterday thinking, yeah, no, he can throw.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, we might as well kind of do we want to include Levis in this conversation yet? Because I think Tate's the bigger story, but I do think
go for it.
I think I don't. I agree with everything you just said. I don't think I saw Cam Ward try to drive the ball a ton though, like meaning like as hard as possible. But it was also that's also what I saw out of Will Levis was clearly a softer, more accurate, more touch focused delivery from Will Levis. I agree. And I don't want to say this to like create some sort of like concern about Cam Ward. That's not what I'm saying. I just didn't see him like rear back and fire, but I didn't see any problems with his motion at all. I didn't notice the arm slot as much as I noticed they both feel like they're trying to put more touch on the ball in this practice. And maybe that's just because it's the first OTAs that we're seeing. It's the beginning of the program. Like they still throw the ball harder than Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Like it's very clear that Hendon Hooker has the weakest arm of the group for sure.
I'm going to get into this more when we talk about schemes and Daboll and what's different about the offense. But if we're comparing this against what we saw from Levis in 24 and what we saw from Cam and Levis in 25, the Callahan, Holtz, Hardigree, McCoy philosophy at the beginning of training camp was take the short stuff, was we're going to progress to throwing deep. Early OTAs, early training camp is check down time. It's build your chemistry. It's ease your way into the offense. And I didn't feel like that was at all a fear or consideration with the way practice was handled yesterday. They were able to read the field. They were able to find who was open. They were able to go for broke. They were able to throw.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't full force chucking it, but they were doing a lot to...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they were doing a lot.
That's right. All right. So Joe says Tate has me pumped, and I think that's fair after one single practice. Can they run a functional screenplay yet? They did. They ran one really great screenplay yesterday morning. Says Z Dean, I need a dissertation on seed oils ASAP from Nick Suss. Coming soon, probably.
Coming soon.
Yeah. Let's see here. Is there any reasonable way, says 10, that Levis stays and doesn't cause an issue wanting to be the one if he does beat out? Wait a second. And if he does beat out Cam, is the sky officially falling? I don't know about that last question there. When you bring that up, but let's get to the Tate of it all as we're watching him run some routes, and then we'll kind of come back to Levis. Look, I think early on this is a Cam Ward Carnell Tate combination conversation, and I think early on the first team session, Cam Ward missed on a bunch of throws. It was a little sloppy, but it looked like the first set of drills on a practice is what it looked like. And then after that, he was largely locked in the rest of the practice in team. And then as he built throughout the practice, he was at his best in the hurry up / 2-minute drill, whatever you want to call that drill at the end. And in that drill alone, I think Carnell Tate had maybe 3 of the biggest plays of the drive, and they went right down the field. Brian Daboll bringing tons of energy, a big seam route to Carnell Tate. They also hit him on a really smooth slant route. They hit him in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Cam did miss him down the left sideline where Tate had like 7 or 8 yards of separation, and Cam Ward missed him, and Brian Daboll threw some expletives into the air, who was standing right next to us. And Daboll brings a ton of energy to all of this. You can see the players react to that energy. Coming off the field, the offense was really fired up after that touchdown drive in 2 minutes. I think the takeaway for me is that Carnell Tate is very smooth. He's very fluid. I think Brian Daboll is going to know how to use him. I think Cam Ward's going to look to him. I think he can do a lot of things. I think that intermediate to deep passing game with Carnell Tate is going to improve. Again, it's just one practice, but like all the things you want to see from a number 4 overall pick in the draft with a lighter second-year quarterback, I think you saw everything you could possibly want to see in those team drills with Cam Ward and Carnell Tate.
Yeah. One thing that I don't know if this is a correction. It's just a different remembrance.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain the slant route you were talking about was to Wan'Dale Robinson, not to Carnell Tate. Otherwise, every play you were referring to, I do think was to Carnell, there was a lot of heavy usage.
Well, maybe it was a skinny post. Then he caught one. It was about midfield, and
Are you talking about in the 2-minute drill?
Maybe it wasn't in the 2-minute drill then, because
the one in the 2-minute I have written down as being Wandale.
I trust your notes over my brain. Number one, but there was a play where Carnell Tate, and the reason I remember it, and obviously I'm remembering it in the wrong session here, but the reason I remember it is that I remember looking over at some people that work for the Titans, and I just go, "That's his route right there. Like that's his route. He eats up coverage." And then creates a one break, one plant and go route where he gets an in-breaker and just shields the ball, shields the defender from the ball. Cam Ward puts it right on the money. I just think that's a route he is going to be very, very good at. And I've got to be careful to not tell you exactly what it is, right? But I just think that's a type of route that he looked good on tape, and it's going to look really good in the NFL. He was very smooth, very fluid, catching the pass, doesn't fight the ball at all. Very impressive first day, I think.
Yeah, I think that the main thing that I can take away from watching Carnell Tate in day one has more to do
with... It says no inhaler fell out of his pocket yesterday? Yeah. Sorry.
I was more impressed with the coaching staff's confidence and reliance on Carnell Tate early. Like this drill we're watching right now, if you guys are watching live, this low throw drill. It's a really tricky drill. Guys were coming off and swearing at how difficult this play is.
It was very hard. Yeah.
Very, very difficult. You're running full speed at a jugs machine that is aimed at your feet. You're coming toward the ball. It's very, very difficult. And you can watch Carnell Tate's rep here.
He struggles.
He struggles. But the one thing I noticed, and this isn't kid gloves and this isn't special treatment, other people missed. Other people struggled on the drill. Tate was the only one that Greg Lewis, the receivers coach, said, get back in line. Like the expectation is this guy is being treated less like a rookie doing everything for the first time than some of the other rookies. It is not speaking out of turn to say that rookies are being eased in. Here's Tate's rep if you want to see it. It's low. It bounces off his hand. He's frustrated.
He doesn't really he needed to drop his hips a little bit lower to get lower on the ball. Like he didn't do it right?
And so you see him get eased back into line as Robert Saleh walks away in the background. But yeah, I think that if you look at the way Daboll was calling the plays, I don't think it's a stretch to say the plays were designed to have Tate be the number one or the number two option. I don't think that's a surprise if we're talking about scheme, especially when we've reported Calvin Ridley wasn't out there and we've reported that Chim DK wasn't heavily involved. He was out there. Alec Iomanner I saw, but he was never on the field. He was just inside the facility. A lot of your top receivers were not running these reps. So when Wandale and Carnell were the only two projected starters out there, it is not surprised that a lot of the plays ran through those two. I don't think I'm betraying any scheme secrets when I say they'd rather have Cam thrown to Carnell Tate than to any of these guys who are competing for roster spots right now. But
former defensive end Laurel Murchison.
I think that I was really impressed by how the coaches, more so than with Keldrick Falk, more so than with Anthony Hill, more so than Pat Coogan, any of these rookies, they seem to say, okay, you're here, we're going to use you. There was no easing in with him, and he took advantage of that.
Yeah. So a couple of questions here from Derek. He already previously mentioned about play action, but I think this is really the thing that I would be most excited about, which is, he says, last year's passing game lacked layered concepts. Defenses weren't being forced to defend multiple levels consistently. I think that's more because of personnel than anything else. And it limited explosive opportunities. Hopefully that will change. So if you think about this offense, how many games did Ridley play last year?
6, I believe.
6. So for 11 games of last season, they don't have the top 3 receivers they're going to have this season. And I know that's simplifying the whole thing, but Ridley, Robinson, and Tate together give them that is a total upgrade on the vast majority of the season last year. I think Robinson, who Saleh raved about in his press conference, and I think all the things that we want to hear from a coach about this person's professionalism, how he puts in the work in the weight room and in the film room and in the body control and all this other stuff, like he looks the part. And here's the other thing, and this is a small thing to note. The only receiver that was over with the quarterbacks warming them up and not in warm-ups was Wan'Dale Robinson. And I read that as like they don't need to get him ready for this. Like he knows how to practice football at a professional level. They don't need him to learn how to stretch or learn how to warm up or learn how to do any of the other stuff.
It had a lot to do with the fact that Wandale's the only one who isn't on special teams. But
also true. Fine. Whatever. I'm just, one of the things I'm noticing is that like Carnell Tate's not going to be on special teams. Like
he will not.
But he also, like, you got to learn how to practice. Like, you got to learn how to do stuff. And Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't need that because he's a total pro. So to your point, Derek, I have said this. I think Ridley in the intermediate routes, I think Tate can do both intermediate and depth. I think Ridley can do both. So they're going to be able to really confuse some defenses with those combinations between those two guys. And then Robinson underneath it is going to be very fun and interesting to watch how they deploy the three of them in the same route concepts. I think it's going to be fun.
And while we're here, can we get to the actual, like, most important quote of yesterday and talk about the structure of this all?
Yeah, go for it.
Yesterday, Cam Ward was asked, I believe by Ben Arthur, if he is seeing the field, if it's slowed down for him, if he's processing more effectively. And Cam, as Cam did, immediately said no. If you ask him a yes/no question, he's going to refute you in a certain way. He's going to prove you wrong. And that's a fun thing that Cam does. We appreciate it.
0 stars.
But what he said was incredibly insightful. He said that the game is not slower. The plays are faster. The plays are developing more quickly, and the plays come to him more quickly, which allows him to see the angles of the field better and allows him to read the defenses in a different way than he had last year. And this kind of goes back to something we talked about in January when Saleh and Daboll were hired, that I think is probably going to be the main thing I'm paying attention to and the main difference between what last year's philosophy was and what this year's philosophy will be. Last year, we talked a lot about taking what the defense gives you, about being smart, about playing within the confines of a system, of knowing where to go when things break down. And from what I saw yesterday, and from what Daboll said in the past, and from what we know about Daboll's offenses historically, this did not feel like a take what the defense gives to you kind of scheme. This felt like a make the defense give you what you want kind
or
of scheme.
Or at least react to what you are, dictate where the ball is going, etc.
It's very little react and respond, and it's more know what your open man is going to be and trust that he's going to be open. And when I was thinking about this and when I was processing it yesterday, you know what 2 words came to mind when I was thinking about that, Braden? College football. This is the air raid. Like, as much as we want to oversimplify, and I'm really, really oversimplifying, this is the principle that got Mike Leach 500 yards a game every year, which is essentially know where your open man is, throw the damn football. Throw the damn football. Just play football. Just go play air raid, go throw the damn football. And that's
there's only like 4 routes in Mike Leach's offense, but each route has like 14 variations.
And that is not to say that they're running the air raid. I'm not sitting here betraying any scheme.
RIP, by the way.
What I'm saying is the philosophy of know where your receiver is, throw it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Cam's probably going to develop to a point throughout his career, if he develops into the quarterback that the Titans think he can be, that he doesn't need to be a one read and chuck it kind of quarterback. But if he is still at the stage of his development where that's happening, this is perfect. This is a coach who, we heard Cam talk about it yesterday. We heard Wan'Dale Robinson talk about it. Daboll knows what he's doing. They trust in the track record, the history, the coaching, Tom Brady and Josh Allen and all of these people that he's been around. They trust that he has the special sauce. Yeah. And if that is the case, they trust that he's going to say, this is open, and they'll throw there. And if that's what the philosophy of the offense is, so much more than last year was, well, this is what's going to happen. Know what the defense is going to do. And if it's not there, you have your check down. This is simplifying it. And Cam used the word simplify yesterday, and he was very careful to be like, it's not less dense. It's still long play calls, still a lot to process. but it's being delivered in such a concise, simple way. And Braden and I heard it, and some other reporters heard it. We heard the way Brian Daboll delivers a play, and it is very direct. It's not like, hey, I'm the quarterback, I'm going to tell you what to do. But there is a confidence instilling of, this is what it's going to look like, this is what you're going to see, it'll be there, you should look for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lighter, more experienced Cam Ward with Brian Daboll on the sidelines and Carnell Tate, like those are the three big differences, and all three of them were apparent. And I mean, like, not only like obvious and apparent, but like, to me, kind of the lead of the practice to some degree, because all things will go as far as Cam Ward goes, and so it just is what it is. That's the game of football. Here's what I would say. I think if we're talking about a faster processing or more prepared Cam Ward, if we're talking about a deeper receiving core, if we're talking about a better offensive system, all of that may be true. We're not going to know until the games really start, obviously. But I think if you are looking for proof of that being true, I think you got as much as you could have possibly asked for on Thursday. As much as a single OTA in May can actually indicate anything in the future, I don't think you could have asked for a better showing. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to win more games. It doesn't mean the offense is going to work. It doesn't mean Carnell Tate's going to be great or that Cam Ward's going to be better. We don't know. But I don't think you saw anything on Thursday. Like, all the things we saw on Thursday are the most positive and best possible scenarios I think you could ask for as a Titans fan. So if you want to be excited about that, I think it's totally fair. I think you should be. I came away going, Carnell Tate looks pretty good. Cam Ward looks pretty good. Brian Daboll brings a lot of energy to the sideline. So much so that Jim Wyatt's putting Stillman in a headline. Like, what are we doing? So even Jared's walking around on the sideline super positive over there. So, and I don't know if you saw his draft coverage on our show. This is how he looked when they drafted Tate. So we got so much other stuff to get to, but I do think it is the biggest story. And I think while you can, I know it's me clearing my throat here, Nick, you cannot officially know anything. It is all signs pointed in the right direction. And I think that's the best you can do on an OTA and, in May with half your offense not there.
And probably more crucially, half your defense not there.
Yeah, very much so. And here's the other thing. This is the one thing that I did not double check on, but with no other real top flight receiving options, and like, did they put Carnell Tate in the best possible situation to do that in his first day? And I would guess you should do that if you're the Titans.
And also, first day we saw, this was the third day of
That's true.
So they've been doing this for a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. All right, what about Will Levis? Let's talk about Will Levis real quickly. Noticeably more accurate and less intensity on his throws. He's not trying to throw the ball over the mountains a quarter mile anymore, and he didn't look like a transformer as much. He's still an enormous human, but he looked pretty good. I mean, in the very first set of drills, Cam was way off, and Will Levis was right on and threw a bunch of like really nice balls down the field, threw a long touchdown pass as well. So what do you make of Will Levis? I think that's a good development as well. If he is playing like that in preseason games, there's some trade value there.
Yeah, look, this is not a knock. This is just like the truth. The first thing I saw when I looked at Will throwing yesterday was that guy's shaped like a quarterback. Because like every time I've ever looked at Will Levis, it's been, okay, Captain America cosplay. It's the
Optimus
muscles,
Prime.
It's the strength, it's the ability to just brute force his way to success. He's a physical specimen. He has, I don't want to say bulked down because he's still very strong and very athletic, but like it seems like he has redistributed the strength to the places it needs to be. It doesn't seem performative, or it seems functional.
He got rid of seed oil.
Yeah. And
his inflammation levels are lower.
Yeah. And I think that what we saw from Will yesterday was a concerted effort to put air under the ball, was a concerted effort to get the ball safely to where it needs to go without sacrificing decisiveness. There was no point where I thought Will was rushing, and there was no point where I thought Will was behind. He seemed to be on time. He still made mistakes. He threw an interception in the hurry-up offense. that ended the drill. You don't want to do that.
Fumbled a snap.
He bobbled a snap that led to a sack. You don't want to do that. There were mistakes that were made. And look, somebody asked earlier if Will was going to push Cam for the job. Will's got to push Mitchell Trubisky before he can push Cam. There are things to earn for Will Levis if he's still with the Titans. But I was deeply and strongly encouraged. I don't want to use the rewire my brain comment against him because I think that got some ride for him being honest. And I always appreciate when an athlete is being honest. I don't know if he's rewired his brain, but I do think that years of being told the thing you're doing isn't going to get you where you want to be has finally sunk in. Because we all know he has the talent to be an NFL quarterback. He's just got to play the game in a more effective way. And he's throwing in a more effective way. I don't know if he's going to play the game more effectively.
Right,
he's throwing more effectively.
The problem with him, so in anxiety-riddled, stressful, traumatic situations, of which I would say playing quarterback in the NFL is one, people tend to do one of two things. They tend to escalate or they tend to calm down. My brain, for example, like I am the guy who's like up here all the time. I am yap, 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 and I'm intense and I'm energy. But when something is really serious that's happening with my life or my family or whatever, like things tend to slow down for me. Like I get, for whatever reason, I just go the other direction and I come way down and I go real slow. Cam Ward is wired that way. I like way more than any human I think I've seen in a while. He just is naturally going to be calm in those situations. Levis goes the opposite direction. He ups the anxiety, he ups the stress. That is his natural reaction to those situations. And what happens is he goes from a quiet quarterback, meaning body movement quiet, to what I saw yesterday was the quietest Will Levis practice I've seen in a long time. Yes. Like everything was compact and tight and simple, and he was doing everything right. And when he gets pressured in a game, go back and watch any of the plays you have of Will Levis in your brain from when he was starting for the Titans is the exact description of what I'm talking about. When things just get too high, too up, too intense, too much energy. Things are rattling around, and I don't know if he's gotten rid of that because that's his natural state. But I think, and as a side note, I think Carnell Tate is wired identically to Cam Ward.
I agree.
Nothing about every moment is just like he's like, I'll take care of this. Like he's just like way down here all the time. So Levis makes coffee nervous. Yeah. There you go. Maybe he cut back on the mayo. Look, I don't want this. He just looked good, and I think we can just say, hey, he looks good. I don't know what that means for the future.
Yeah, I am encouraged that Will took advantage of the last 11 months. I don't necessarily think we need to say more than that, but he does look like the time away has been good for him.
Yeah, I agree. And a bunch of you are asking about the offensive line, so we will absolutely get to that momentarily here. Sinkers Beverages, make sure you support good local businesses, please. So go to Sinkers Beverages. Make sure you buy all your booze or your non-alcoholic stuff or your mocktails or your barware or your THC bevies or whatever. Get it all at Sinkers Beverages, award-winning liquor store, 5-time liquor store of the year in Nashville, like the best liquor store in the city. And they now have the award-winning craft beer retail fridge, which has a bunch of great local brews like East Nashville Beer Works, Yazoo Brewing Company, and Tennessee Brew Works. So we'll get to that offensive line here momentarily. I do want to point out Anthony Hill. I thought he had one of the more impressive athletic plays of the day, where he skied up in the air to catch an interception and then returned it a pretty good distance. Obviously, him and Cody Barton are going to be battling for playing time alongside Cedric Gray. That's just pretty obvious. I think everybody kind of knows that. But that was what we saw there was like his pure raw talent on display in a very impressive play. Not a great read, not a good throw by a potential fourth-string quarterback. So I'm not going to go out of my way here, but you saw what you wanted to see out of him, which is just like freakish length and athleticism. And I was talking to some PR people about this. When Arch Manning was not available for comment at Texas, there was only one guy who was put out in front of the media to answer questions, and that was Anthony Hill. And so I just think there's a thoughtfulness and an insightfulness and an energy and a passion and a personality there that I think lends itself well to the position.
I agree. I like what I'm seeing from him. I don't necessarily know how quickly they're going to have to or want to phase him in, but he is a player who fits what the Titans do.
We got Tate, we got Ward, we got his weight, we got Daboll, we got Anthony Hill, we got. Do you actually want to talk about seed oil or no? I think it's
Look.
If this is a Joe Rogan thing that's in Robert Saleh's brain, that's upsetting to me. But it's also probably good for you to remove seed oil. So whatever.
I will have a lot more to say next week.
Okay.
Look,
right.
I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna figure something out. I didn't want to, but everybody keeps asking about it, and now I'm gonna have to do it. So I will spend the next couple of days learning about seed oils, and then when we talk next week,
All right, fair enough.
I will have a sermon to give.
Oh, it's even worse. Bustin' Diamond says it's a RFK thing. Oh God. Okay. Here's the thing. Keldrick Falk, really big dude, really large man. Next, and what's going to be a really large defensive line when it's John Franklin Myers, Simmons, Johnson, and Falk. I think Falk was the only one that was there. Almost impossible to know, what a defensive line is doing in a practice without pads, or an offensive line for that matter. But we're going to get to the offensive line, so I thought I'd mention that Keldrick Falk is a large man. How do seed oils affect dinosaur arms, Nick? Is that going to be in the story?
I think seeds existed in the Jurassic and Triassic periods.
So,
I would imagine there were seeds back then. I don't know if they cooked things in oil back then.
Is there any evidence that can disprove that seed oil causes the T-Rex's arms to stay short?
I think that
is it the seed oils that's keeping the T-Rex arms from evolving?
Look, I think that T-Rexes were famously carnivorous, and I don't think they were cooking their
fried
velociraptor steaks in peanut oil. I don't think that was happening, but it is possible. So I won't rule it out when I'm being empirical about Tyrannosaurus stories.
And CRA says it's a real thing. Plenty of research on it. Look, I'm joking about how it got out into the ethos with RFK and Rogan. Having a lot of canola oil in your diet is probably not good. Having a lot of oil that is corn oil, probably not good for your. That seems pretty self-explanatory there. I'm an olive oil guy. Give me the olive oil that is cooked at low temperatures and processed at low temperatures, and all the natural ingredients are still there when you're done with it. So there you go. Okay, offensive line. Do you want to touch on the offensive line?
I don't have too much to say. I think that it's going to be a better thing to talk about when we see players wear pads and hit each other. I want to see more competition. I want to see actual offensive line play. I don't want to just see standing up straight and pretending to block. I am not surprised that Austin Schlottmann has a bit of an advantage right now, given that he is familiar with the scheme. And if you're the one snapping the ball and calling out protections and all that stuff, you want to be the person who is 100% certain on the scheme instead of somebody who is learning as you go. We'll see what comes of it as practice progresses into minicamp and then obviously into training camp. But I don't know. Dan Moore wasn't there. Can't really talk about the tackles very much. Good to see Skoronski and Latham showing up for this practice. I will have so much more to say about O-line play when O-line play actually starts happening.
Let me ask you this. What do you think they want to happen at right guard? Because Jackson Slater, Saleh did tell us, Jackson Slater, it's very clear that they are trying to get him to compete at right guard. That's clearly where they want him fighting for spots. That's what Robert Saleh told us. There's a chance they could mix him in at center as well. Can you give me, what do you think they want to happen at center and right guard?
Yeah, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the franchise that has marketed itself on draft, develop, retain, I don't think it's a stretch to say that they would prefer if Pat Coogan or Jackson Slater or Fernando Carmona won these jobs. I think they want to have homegrown talent develop so that they can reward them and retain them. It's going to take some time. That's why you sign Schlottmann. That's why you sign Cordell Volson. That's why you probably should have signed bigger names than that if you could have. And
well, they were trying. They tried.
They tried. That's what I'm saying. That's why if you could have, they probably would have preferred to. You don't draft these guys hoping that they'll be backups. You sign veterans on short-term deals, hoping that the guys you're developing will develop into being the actual guys. So if I were a betting man, I would lean toward they want Coogan to win the role eventually. They want either Slater or Carmona to win the job eventually, but they have guys in place that they trust to be stopgaps if that's not the case.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair way to look at it. Derek says, what exciting events does your show have planned for training camp and preseason? Are there any special guests scheduled to appear? Nothing right now. That's months and months and months out. I will say you're gonna there's gonna be some crossover between another show on this platform and a couple of football show hosts here coming up in a couple of weeks. So just stay tuned for that. There will be fireworks. There will be blood. I don't know what's the right phrase.
I hope there won't be blood.
You know, it's a good movie. All right, so let's see here. Anything else from camp you want to get to? Any of the so here's the one thing I'll say about the offense, because then we can touch on a little bit some of the defense. I just think, and this may be overreacting, but I was feeling this way going into practice, and then being at practice kind of confirmed it. So I don't know if it's confirmation bias, but I need your thoughts on this. Like I think right now on paper, and then what I saw on the field, is that every position group is deeper and more talented and better and improved. Everyone. I don't know about the interior of the offensive line, but they are far better at wide receiver than at this stage last year. They are far better at tight end, I think, at this stage than they were last year, potentially. I'm not sure about that one yet, but I think Helm is better. I think Bellinger looks really good. I think Kanik has got a chance to make the team, as a deep player. I think the running back room is deeper and more talented than it was last year. I think the quarterback room is deeper and more talented than it was last year. I kind of I think the coaching staff is clearly an upgrade. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but I think they are better across the board on offense.
Somebody asked maybe 20, 30 minutes ago, so you don't have to find the comment, but somebody asked if there was anybody that surprised or anybody that was under the radar that stood out. I feel like this is probably the fourth straight year that I've said this on May 22nd, but Tajay Spears looked good yesterday.
He did.
Like, let's not forget how explosive and how valuable Tajay Spears can be. I feel like a lot of people have just immediately jumped to the conclusion that Nick Singleton is going to replace him, that Nick Singleton is going to be the third down back, and that Nick Singleton is being groomed to be the eventual feature back. I'm not sitting here and saying Tajay is going to get an extension. I'm not saying Tajay is the future of the offense, but I think it is a little bit ludicrous to look at what Nick Singleton did in 4 years of college and say, oh, he's going to be the pass catching back, when you can look at what Tajay has done 3 years in the NFL and also 4 years of college, 3 years of college, and very clearly know that Tajay has that skill. And he seems to fit in Daboll's offense like a glove. Like that was a good fit.
No, I think what it is it's Pollard 1A, Tajay Spears 1B, and the future plan might be Tajay 1A, Singleton 1B. Like, that might be the direction they're going. Tajay Spears did look very good yesterday. Again, part of why I'm looking at this going, I think they're better across the board in every position group is in part because it feels deeper. It feels like they have more than one option at all of these positions, it feels like. And again, it's May. I get it. It's May. All right. Tajay just needs to stay healthy. He is great when he's on the field, says Z Dean. Again, him and Pollard, I think, had 90-plus targets-ish. 90-ish targets last year, I think, between the two of them. Do you feel confident in overreacting to OTAs to say that the floor is raised and the Titans will win the Super Bowl in Tennessee when it comes? That's a great transition, by the way. We can get right into the Super Bowl here.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl, but first, tell us about a liquor store where you may or may not be able to purchase seed oil-based drinks.
I've already said Sinkers Beverages a bunch of times on the show. Sinkers Beverages, but thank you for that setup there. Look, here's the deal. The floor is raised. I think that's the whole point of the offseason, was to elevate the floor of the team. And if they do not win 6 or 7 games, the pitchforks and torches for Mike Borgonzi specifically will be apparent and will be evident. So they need to get to 7 or 8 wins probably to really show people, hey, we've made a lot of progress. The floor has been raised. So again, you can't prove that in May at an OTA, but I think you saw as good a version of what you wanted to see as possible, if that makes any sense at all. Anything on defense you want to add? Corners, safeties. We didn't see the real defensive line. It was just hard to really know what we were looking at on defense.
Yeah, based off of the observations that I had, I didn't see Cordell Flott out there. I didn't see Tony Adams out there. I didn't see Jermaine Johnson. I didn't see John Franklin Myers. Very few of the people that we saw yesterday were the new players. Yeah. So we saw a lot of returning type talents. I am going to reserve comment on the defense until I see more of. It was pretty much Alontae Taylor plus last year's defense.
Yeah, Kevin Winston looked fully healthy and ready to go for the start of the season, which is good. And he was moving around very well, so good to have him at that stage of the offseason. That's a guy that I speak very highly of. Robert Saleh was very complimentary of Femi Oladejo's body. Not as much on the actual execution. They just got to get him to the place where they want him. So Richard says, any noticeable difference? This goes back to offense, but any noticeable difference in Ward's footwork? Maybe a little bit. We need to see more over time. He didn't throw any in the dirt, because he was trying to be too quick with it yesterday. All right. Anything else on defense you want to add? Anything at all? Special teams? Anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to reserve time on that. Yeah.
All right. Let's go Super Bowl here then, because look, if you want a really fully in-depth, detailed discussion around the stadium deal paired with the value of a Super Bowl. So from the business side of things, I'll do a little bit of it here, but Paul Kaharski and Paul filled in for Steve Cavendish on Lamestream Sports, which is our sports media and business, very niche podcast. It comes out every Friday. You can listen to that. It's already up right now. We spent about 40 minutes on sort of diving into the details of the actual stadium deal, which gets panned a lot in like one-liners by a lot of Nashvillians and a lot of political people that are like, man, it's the most publicly funded stadium in history. Can't believe we paid for that. What are we going to get for it? The deal itself is so much better for the city than anyone really realizes, even its opponents. The mayor currently, Freddie O'Connell, when he was a council member, voted against it. And so I think that the public perception around the deal that the city got on the stadium, I think, is inaccurate. I think it's a great deal relative to the situation we were in. And I think the perception is that it's not, that we're just paying for this giant thing. However, on the flip side, and again, Nick and I are going to talk a little bit more about the actual game and stuff like that. But on the flip side, the Super Bowl is touted and viewed as this economic institution that's going to deliver hundreds of millions of dollars to a local economy. And that is simply not true. So the stadium deal, much better than public perception. The Super Bowl, not nearly as good for your economy as you realize. Those two things are kind of inverted in reality. And if you want a full, really detailed, like, here's the amount of money the city saved because the renovation costs were on the hook and the difference between a revenue bond and a general fund bond, like all that detail stuff, go check out Lamestream Sports with me and PK. I know you wrote about this too, Nick, but the Titans thinking that they are going to reimagine, totally up the ante on a 7-decade-old sporting event that is the most viewed American sporting event each year. That seems a little over your skis, maybe.
I have said this to people I shouldn't have said this to. So let's start here. I shouldn't have said this to. But in the last couple of days, I've said this to people I shouldn't have said this to. Why can't the pitch for this whole thing just be, this is going to be cool, right? Like, that's exciting.
That's
a cool
exactly
thing's
right.
happening.
That's exactly
like
right.
I am the idea.
That's why you say yes to the game.
Yeah.
You say yes to the game because that's going to be really cool for Nashville.
Yeah. It's gonna, civic pride is gonna be through the roof, and we're all gonna be excited, and we're gonna get to say we were there, and Nashville's on the map, and just like, this is rad. Like, I know that politicians and business leaders and leaders of society and all that stuff can't just come up and say like, tubular, dude. But like, fundamentally, that should be the main focus we have, is that the Super Bowl is very cool. It's very cool that only 17 metro areas have ever hosted the Super Bowl, and Nashville's about to be, only 16 ever have.
Yeah, there you go.
And Nashville's going to be the 17th. It's very, very cool that Nashville is being put in this caliber, in this echelon. When you start bringing in things like financial impact, which Braden will touch on in Lamestream, and when you start bringing in things like reinvention, that's when it becomes our job as media members and reporters and pundits to kind of pick apart. Well, what is that?
Like what?
What do you mean by what do you mean by that? And so I'm a little bit flummoxed by the idea. Like, I give Burke Nihill the credit for saying the perfect thing in response to the question, which is referring to the quote, "The light bulb was not invented by the incremental progress of the candle." You're correct. Making things incrementally better does not create brand new invention and development and all that stuff. But the Super Bowl sure as hell ain't a candle.
Comparing the Super Bowl to a candle is insane. That's an insane thing to do.
Like the Super Bowl sure as hell ain't a candle. The Super Bowl is a very, very well-oiled machine that people love.
Ooh, and well-oiled, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Seed oiled, yeah.
So I want to make a quick point in case I didn't come off in a certain way. To your point, and that is, as a Nashvilleian who's been here 30 years, I number one cannot believe we're talking about this. Just if I think back at what is that tapping noise? I cannot believe that we're talking about this. Number one, and number two, I think it is awesome. I think it is great. I think it is rad and tubular. I think it's so cool. I think Nashville being one of 17 is amazing. It's an extraordinary story of a city's growth and development. We don't have to. We can also talk about all of the problems with growth and development in another conversation. I want to be very clear about, like, I'm very excited about this because I think it's cool for our city. In which case, I have one assignment for you. There is scientific evidence that communities are scientifically happier after hosting the Super Bowl or large events like this, World Cup coming, for example. I need like 3,000 words from you on that.
Okay.
I'm serious. Like I want to know, and I think it would be worthwhile for Nashvilleians to read, because the stuff we're about to talk about, which is like, oh yeah, it's great for the people of the city. Like, no, not really. But the happiness part is maybe the best part for the people of the city.
Yeah, joy quotient's going to be out the wazoo. And like somebody asked earlier about the rain at the Super Bowl party that happened on Wednesday night, and I was there, and I spent the entire time there. And if you guys want to go read, I believe it's front page of the Tennessean today, so you can pick up your paper. It's three straight days on A1, baby. The Super Bowl matters.
Oh, A1, 3 days in a row.
But you can also just go check it out on Tennessean.com. And I kind of wrote, it was this weird thing that felt like it justified why Nashville should be a Super Bowl host city without justifying anything about Nashvilleians, which is, it didn't seem like people showed up to that party because they wanted to go to that party. It feels like people saw a party and were like, hell yeah, let's party. It was more than 50% tourists who showed up, which makes sense because it was a Wednesday night on Broadway. And if you guys live here, tell me the last time you spent a Wednesday night on Lower Broadway.
I can't tell you the last time I spent a Friday or a Saturday night on Broadway.
But it was a lot of people who would walk up to me and my coworker and some other reporters that were there and be like, hey, what's going on here? It's like, oh, Nashville's getting the Super Bowl. And they're like, yeah, I heard about that. So what's going on here? Oh, there's like a concert that's celebrating it. There's going to be fireworks and drone show and all that stuff.
Is there beer?
They're like, oh, what time does it start? Like 7:30. Like, who's the band? Like Six Wire. Like, Six Wire. Like, there will be special guests. I mean, who do you think's the special guest is going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I got it down to two candidates. Like, who do you think the two candidates are? I was like, it's either going to be Tim McGraw or Eric Church. And I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. And I was right, it was Tim McGraw, but he didn't actually play. He just kind of was there. And like, yeah, it was a lot of people who were like, yeah, I'll show up to that. Because Nashville is a town that people are just going to like show up to do stuff in. Like, people are going to want to come to Nashville and people are going to want to be part of the party. And I think that the genius of we're reinventing it and we're coming up with Watch Party or whatever it is, I don't get the read. Like, let's compare Broadway to the Vegas Strip, for example. The attractions of the Vegas Strip are not being outside on the street. Like, you go inside to gamble. You go inside to do all of the stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Broadway,
what about Bourbon Street?
Bourbon is a better connection here. And Bourbon, I don't understand. I guess the main difference is that Bourbon is
no cars.
Absolute chaos.
And it will be shut down, by the way, for cars. Like, like most big events downtown Nashville.
And I think that the appeal of Lower Broad and the appeal of Nashville as a destination city is the circulation, is the place A to place B to place C to place D. Find something to do. You're not coming to Nashville specifically because you want to go to Posties. You're coming to Nashville because you want to do the Broadway thing. You're not picking a bar like you would pick a casino in Vegas. I think that works in Nashville's favor, and I've clowned on the reinvention thing, and I will continue to clown on the reinvention thing because the idea of
you don't need to.
The idea of we're going to reinvent the Super Bowl by having a watch party on Broadway. Oh, you just blew your load, man. I guess next year LA can do a watch party on Hollywood Boulevard. Okay, sure.
No, right. Like, here's the thing. This is the advice. Just be yourself, Nashville.
Yeah.
Just be Nashville. Be the best version of yourself, and that will paint the Super Bowl in its own light. Because you can't reinvent the game. You can't reinvent all the other stuff. And frankly, the NFL doesn't want you to. The NFL is going to ask for literally tens of millions of dollars worth of free concessions. This gets to the economics of it all. And it's going to just like the World Cup is way worse at this, because the World Cup is going to hey, you can't even call it Nissan Stadium or Geodis Park. You got to call it Nashville Stadium. They're going to hang banners, like building size banners on everything. Like the city skyline will look different for those 3 or 4 months. And a lot of that will not benefit anyone of regular Nashville ilk or whatever. So really just be yourself. Just be Nashville. Do the things that you do well, which is a downtown campus that is very well connected with lots of entertainment options and lots of things to do that people don't get to do elsewhere. And here's the other thing, and Paul and I talked about this on both Lame Stream and I think a football show. Guys, I don't think this is going to be some enormous country halftime show either. Do you know the Venn diagram of the audience of the Super Bowl, the NFL, and the audience for mainstream big time country artists? It's a circle. They want it to be 2 separate circles. They want to bring in international people and diversity and women and all this other stuff. That's what they want, because their only goal in all of this is the most amount of humans watching the game. As all they care about. How can we get the most humans watching the game? So I'm in group. I don't know about you, Nick, but I'm in group chats with Nashvillians that are like, "Oh, is it going to be like Tim McGraw with Alan Jackson and Carrie Underwood and Dolly Parton?" And I'm like, guys, it might be country plus, it might be somebody plus country, but it's probably not going to be this big country palooza that you guys think it's going to be.
I would say, just off the top of my head, as pop culture nerd, there are 5 living country musicians who are famous enough to headline the Super Bowl.
Ooh, okay.
Two of them by 2030 will almost certainly be retired from performing if they are still with us. One of them will be on the borderline of retired from performing if they are still with us. And the other 2, I think, would be a bit redundant to the Super Bowl, your argument.
All right. So, okay. I want to see if I can do this.
Sure. This is just my list, and we can
because 90s country is not really my sweet spot.
Sure.
My 90s country was more female artists, frankly. Now, all right, I'm going to say Garth Brooks is one.
So I did not have Garth on my list, not because he's not famous enough, but because I think his Q rating has kind of disappeared in the non-being on Spotify era. I think,
again, also does not expand your audience at all.
I think that Garth not being on Spotify has absolutely wrecked his Q rating for younger generations.
Are you counting also? Trisha's way better live, just for the record. Not that matters. But he works really hard at a concert. Like Garth puts on a show and he busts his ass, and that would play well on TV. It would play very well on TV. Does Taylor Swift count in all of this?
I was not counting Taylor Swift
because I don't count her as a country artist, but she is pseudo country and Nashville. And Kelsey will be retired at this point, which is apparently important. She's not going to do the Super Bowl because Kelsey's still involved, and there's a good chance he's not involved at this point. So you're not counting Garth or Taylor. Dolly Parton?
Dolly was on the list, but I imagine she'll be retired from performing in 2030.
I think you get a single song cameo from Dolly almost no matter what. I think that's what they're going to try to do, is get one. The people would go nuts if Dolly Parton came out for a song. Just one. Or even half a song. You know, like a minute 10 or whatever they do with these songs at a halftime show. I actually don't know who's bigger.
So the list I had in my head that I think would be popular enough for a mass audience to headline were, I think Dolly and Willie will both have been retired.
Willie Nelson. Okay, I don't know. I think he's
He's very famous.
He is. Okay.
I'm talking purely from a fame perspective. I think that Reba is famous enough. I don't think she's famous enough as a musician. I think she's just more famous as
that's true.
Reba, the TV star. And then you have Carrie Underwood as TV star / massive personality. And
it will be on NBC.
Yes.
For now, which is her screaming Sunday night at the top of her lungs into a microphone.
And then the last one is Morgan Wallen, who right now is famous enough. Will he be famous enough in 4 years? We'll see. Right now, he's big enough. But that's why I'm saying when that's your list of country musicians who are arguably, and we can throw Garth on here. Again, I'm knocking Garth because I don't think anybody under the age of 25 knows how to discover Garth's music. Nobody has Amazon Music, and nobody is shopping for CDs at Bass Pro Shops. And that's not a joke. That is where Garth sells his CDs. He sells his CDs exclusively at Bass Pro Shops. It is very difficult to get his music. Yeah, that happened. That happened like 2 or 3 years ago. He had a Bass Pro Shops exclusive CD. It's very
Bustin' Diamond. Carrie Underwood will be doing the Turning Point halftime show instead. I didn't know she's in that. I know Fisher. I know Mike. Like, I don't know him personally, but I know him enough. I do know Mike is in that group of individuals, but I didn't think Carrie was there too. Any Nashville artist will be better than last year's halftime show. I hate to break it to you, but last year's halftime show was one of the most watched halftime shows of all time, and very well done. I don't know any of Bad Bunny's music, but it was extremely successful. Do you want to know why? Because he is the most streamed artist in the world, and he opens up the audience. He opens up the audience, and that is all the NFL cares about. This is not politics. It's not social justice. It's not country versus rock and roll. It is like who can bring in the most eyeballs, and that's all it is.
And the two comments that we've gotten most recently, one about Chris Stapleton and one about Luke Combs, I think are perfect examples of what I'm discussing here. I think Chris Stapleton is immensely talented and immensely country famous.
100%.
I think that Chris Stapleton is a perfect candidate to come be the country representative for a pop show.
Yeah.
If it is a very famous pop star, if it's, I don't know, if it's Rosalia doing the halftime show and Chris Stapleton comes in and does half of a song, Nashville gets riled up. Right. You're doing what you did in Atlanta when Big Boy comes out with Maroon 5.
This is what I'm saying. It is going to be the plus. Country will be the plus. It will be like, here's what I would. First of all, you have to make Taylor Swift say no. Like, she's the perfect fit. Nashville roots, Hendersonville roots, a little bit of country, but mostly pop and rock and roll. The most successful tour in the history of the world. You have to make Taylor Swift say no, and she could just be like, "Nah, I'm good." Because here's the other thing you have to consider, like, these artists will say no based on corporate sponsorship sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if this is going to be I'm just going to pick, like, if this is a Kroger event and she's a huge Publix girl, like you can't do the show. You're not going to do it. So this is what I'm thinking. This is the way I think people should think about it with Bustin' Diamond. Ed Sheeran is the headliner. Ed Sheeran is the halftime show. Ed Sheeran is the name that they put on lights. You get one song with Taylor, one song with Dolly, and that's the kind of halftime show I think you need to think about. Like, it's Beyonce with a song of Taylor. It's Elton John with a song of Dolly. You have to think about it like that. It's probably going to be a massive international pop star with a country twist to it. And that's how I think you have to look at it.
I'm thinking about it just because I'm going to listen to her new album later today. But Olivia Rodrigo would be somebody that would be famous enough to do it.
Dude, my wife's listened to a ton of her. She's
famous enough to do it.
That's not the Dean girl. Who am I thinking?
No, Olivia Dean is first album. Very good. Retro soul, like trying
Olivia
to
Dean's
be
very good. Yeah, she's
very talented. Yeah. Trying to be Adele, Amy Winehouse, that mold. But the good girl, she's very prim and proper. Okay. Good musician. I like her. But yeah, I think that we are going to get to a point where it has to be internationally famous pop star with a country accent.
Yeah, that's right. Here's the unfortunate part to many of you in the comments. No disrespect to any of you. I don't know all your demographics, but most of you are men, and most of you are not under the age of 24. Here's the very harsh reality that I personally am facing in all of this. I don't know what's hot for 23-year-olds. I just don't anymore. And I don't I can tell you who all the things that are hugely famous in my life, and people that I grew up with, and people that I love today, and people that I still will love in the future. But like, I don't listen to Sabrina Carpenter. Like, I don't know her music. I do know Olivia Dean and Rodrigo, but I don't know how big those artists are relative to, what I thought was famous in the 80s and 90s, like Michael Jackson level of fame. Like, I don't think there's anybody close to that. Like, people don't realize how big Bad Bunny is. Like, they don't understand. Like, I don't understand how big he is. And here's the other one. Here's the other one from CTH, which says, let's see here. Does the NFL even tie in the local community with the halftime show? Doesn't seem like they do. Occasionally they will. Remember the hip hop halftime show in LA featured all of Southern California, like Los Angeles artists. I think it also featured like Eminem as well. To your point about Big Boy, there's a hat tip there that I think you can deliver to Nashville country, but I think that's all you can. I think that's all you can do. Like Jelly Roll and Chris Stapleton. People will tune in all around the world and be like, who?
So let me put this in a very simple, not trying to be a jackass, but a very simple response to B. French's comment about Dolly and Bad Bunny. So all time in the history of Spotify, which has existed for 15 years, Dolly Parton has amassed 4.8 billion streams on Spotify. Pretty good. That is very good. That is incredibly famous. In the first 24 hours that Bad Bunny's halftime show was live on the internet, it amassed 4.8 billion views. So we're talking 24 hours of Bad Bunny's halftime show is equal to 15 years of Dolly Parton on Spotify. Now, that is not... It's a little bit of apples and green apples because I'm comparing one streaming service, Spotify, to all YouTube, Spotify.
I listen to my music. I listen to all my music on Apple. Yeah,
but nevertheless, Dolly Parton in 15 years has amassed the kind of audience that Bad Bunny did in 24 hours with one halftime performance. Yeah. The popularity we're talking about here is very, very different.
Yeah. B. French, this is not like to be attacking you in any way. I would genuinely like to know your demographics, like as a scientific knowledge thing here. I'd like to know, like, if you are me, a 43-year-old white male, yeah, you think Dolly's way better than Bad Bunny. That's the truth. Like, I'm sitting here going, like, I'd like to have Lucas Nelson do it, and no one knows who that is. Like, no one knows who the artists I listen to are. Also, to Jason's point, Dolly will be 85 years old.
I came in here today wearing a front bottoms hat. This is an obscure punk band from New Jersey.
Right.
Like, guys, I'm not sitting here. I love 3 Bad Bunny songs, but I don't know the full scope of it. I know I'm not the target demographic because the NFL has me. NFL has me.
First of all, your wife's Puerto Rican? Good job, Manzana. I love Puerto Rico. I've been like 6 times. It's one of my favorite places. How many, give me streaming numbers. Give me the stats on Morgan Wallen. Like, okay. I don't listen to his music. I thought it was a little like hip hoppy for me, even though I like hip hop and I like country. I just don't know if I love them mixed together. I'm just curious I know he's probably the most famous, like true, like active in their prime country artist right now. Right. Like,
yeah. So Morgan Wallen lifetime on Spotify has 30 billion streams.
30 billion.
Yes.
So Dolly Parton has, we're talking like 1/10 of the streams of Morgan Wallen all time.
Yes. And Bad Bunny.
Where's Bad Bunny's total streams?
122 billion.
Do you have a list? Like, give me the top like 5 or 8 or whatever. Like, who's on that list?
I can do that. This is Kworb.com, KWORB, in case you guys
string cheese
cared about this.
It's gonna be Humphreys McGee with just Trey Anastasio as the side piece. Oh god.
So let's see.
Like they
Spotify
did. Brett Michaels. Oh my god. I think you have to have big performers from the market, and the LA group was a major hub for that. I mean, the LA for sure.
So your top 10 all time. At number 10 with 63.6 billion, that'll be Eminem. At number 9 with 63.8 billion, that'll be the artist formerly known as Kanye West. At 8th place with 63.8, just a little bit higher, that'll be Ed Sheeran. At 7th place with 64.3 billion, that is Travis Scott. At 6th place with 66.4 billion, That'll be Ariana Grande. In fifth place, jumping
Dude,
up a little bit.
Grande's, she's everywhere too. Like
Yeah.
she's all over the place.
In fifth place with 75.8, so a pretty significant jump there, we have Justin Bieber. In fourth place with 93.8, so an even more significant jump there, we have The Weeknd. In third place at 122.6, there is the aforementioned Bad Bunny.
122 is fourth place?
It's third place.
Third place? Oh my God.
In second place with 125.2 is Taylor Swift. Ooh. And in first place, the king of streaming at 133.7 billion all-time streams, 118.4 million daily streams.
Oh my God.
That is Drake.
Oh my God. No, come on. Really?
Yeah. Drake makes a lot of music. There's a lot of music to stream. And we're going really long. And if you guys are still intrigued by this, I can talk more about my opinions about the music industry. I spend a lot of time thinking about this sort of stuff. But from that list, almost everybody has already performed the halftime.
Yeah,
or been called out at the halftime show. In the case of one certain member of this list, The Weeknd has played. Bad Bunny has played.
Taylor hasn't. Has Bieber's done it, right?
I don't believe Taylor has. I don't believe Bieber has. I don't believe Ariana ever has.
Those would be like those three are like next.
Yeah. Bieber. I don't.
Taylor is the only one that makes sense. Taylor Swift is the only one that is your number one draft pick. That's your number one on your big board. You got to make her say no.
Yeah.
And you do everything in your power to give her what she wants. I mean, so this is what everyone in my group chat is saying. What our rookie is saying here. You'd have to pair Morgan Wallen with Lainey Wilson, Zach Bryan, and Luke Combs with the Dolly Parton, Taylor Swift, Jelly Roll collab. That's what a lot of people in Nashville in my group chats are suggesting. And I don't think people realize that none of those, you need one name. And I don't know if Morgan Wallen is big because, again, 30 billion all time is not even like top 30.
I was about to give you this context. So Morgan Wallen is 53rd all time.
53rd
at his 30 billion. This is a list of people who do not primarily perform in English who are higher than Morgan Wallen. Just so we can understand that global streams is an entirely different scope.
Olivia Rodrigo
primarily performs in English.
Okay.
Peso Pluma at number 47. Fied, who I've never heard of.
I've never heard of some of these people.
Maluma at 42. Arjit Singh, I don't know him, but I would imagine does not sing in English. Carol G at 35. Anuel AA at 31. Rao Alejandro at 29. Daddy Yankee at 27. Ozuna at 19. BTS at 18. J Balvin at 16. And then, as mentioned,
I've not heard of half those people. Can you do me a very personal favor here?
Of course.
This is for a very personal group chat question that I need to answer. I need to know how many streams does Elton John have and how many streams does Alan Jackson have?
Oh yeah, Elton John is about to absolutely dwarf this man, but I will look it up for you.
Yeah, because I need to know because I got to do a huge discussion about Alan Jackson's a legend. He's absolutely big enough to be the star of the halftime show, and I was like, Alan Jackson is very good. He is not in even close to the same category as Elton John, and Elton John is not in the same category as these guys we're talking about.
Elton John just south of 19 billion lifetime streams. I could give you 100 guesses as to his most streamed Spotify song, and Braden Gall would not get it.
Sad songs.
Nope.
Does that the highest selling number one single of all time was "Candle in the Wind"? That's
true, but it's not that. His number one Spotify streaming song is a remix he did with Dua Lipa a couple of years ago called Cold Heart.
Dua Lipa carrying him. So 19 billion is not even like top 100?
I'll check that in a second. Alan Jackson all time 4.7 billion. So a little bit south of Dolly. Okay. But
okay. All right. This
considerably
is
less.
New podcast idea where Braden and Nick come together and talk. No, that's the Beatles, 10. That's the Beatles and talking.
Elton John on all-time Spotify streams.
This is a fair question, 10. Morgan Wallen is the big question. Is he too controversial? It is that in a sport that is played primarily by African Americans and a guy who has used the word that you're not supposed to use ever. Is that controversial enough? Do I think he should pay for that his whole life? Like, no, obviously, but like there is some element to that the NFL would consider. And I would argue that they would overlook all of that stuff if he brought in more eyeballs. if he brought in more people to the audience and made the audience go up, I'm willing to bet you the NFL is cynical enough to ignore all controversy. Drake, Morgan Wallen, you name it. That would be my guess.
Elton John is 109th all-time on lifetime Spotify streams, which puts him 15 spots behind Suicide Boys.
Wait. You said what? 100 and what?
109th. Other people who are in the same range as Elton John include...
If most of your streams took place at a 1988 Trans Am, you're probably not doing the halftime show. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, I think that the NFL gave up. The only reason we used to get, there was about a 10-year period where we used to get, Braden, can you pull up the full list of NFL halftime shows?
I can try. Hang on.
Yeah, while I talk right here.
Yeah.
There was about a 10-year period from roughly 2006-ish to roughly 2012, 2015-ish, somewhere around there, where we got a lot of legacy acts, where The Who and the Rolling Stones and Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty and a lot of legacy acts played the Super Bowl. That was a direct reaction to something that happened in 2004. Will you pull up the 2004 halftime show for me real quick?
Okay.
I think it was 2004.
I'm getting there. There we go. Was that Janet Jackson, P. Diddy, Nelly, Kid Rock, Justin Timberlake, Jessica Simpson? Man, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. So do you guys remember what happened at the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake halftime show? Do you guys happen to remember what happened at that halftime show?
22-year-old me absolutely remembers. 43-year-old me remembers as well.
So if you guys happen to remember what happened in 2004, read me off the next 10 halftime performances.
Paul McCartney, Rolling Stones, Prince, Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen. And then The Who.
Okay,
Black
so you had
Eyed
6
Peas.
years there of legacy acts.
Yeah.
Black Eyed Peas were the safest legacy act possible.
Madonna.
And then Madonna's a legacy act.
Beyonce.
And then starting in, was that 2016 when Beyonce played, or 2015?
2013 Beyonce.
Okay, 2013.
Bruno Mars 2014. Katy Perry 2015. Coldplay 2016. Lady Gaga. Timberlake. Maroon 5. I cannot believe Maroon 5 is big enough to do that, but whatever.
So my point
Shakira,
here
J-Lo.
is... My point here is, for those of you who are like, hey, remember Paul McCartney played the halftime show, Rolling Stones played the halftime show. One, they are much more famous than Alan Jackson. Tom Petty, we're probably getting into the Alan Jackson Dolly
That's
Parton
right.
range. But those halftime shows were direct responses to the NFL's absolute mess on its hands after the Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake saga.
That's true.
So
that's true.
We
dude, you could win so many bar bets with this. Who has played the halftime show the most?
Yeah,
Up with People. I don't know what that is. Is
Am
that
I
a choir or something?
Am I correct? Go back to like the 99 or 2000 halftime show. Am I correct in remembering that Big Bad Voodoo Daddy guested at a halftime show?
I'm sure. I could find that. There you go. 99. Yeah. They were with Gloria Estefan, Stevie Wonder, and the celebration of soul, salsa, and swing.
Yeah, the halftime show is not exactly what it used to be when Big Bad Voodoo Daddy once played the halftime show. But look, we are out of the era where Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen and Paul McCartney and all of these legacy acts, even Madonna, could feasibly lead a halftime show. People were commenting about what's the best or most recent good halftime performance. I kind of point to the Shakira and Jennifer Lopez one as kind of a transformative one of a way to capture a new audience and get new people watching the game that might not otherwise have. And that one was awesome. That was a very, very good, fun show. It's not as simple as, oh man, you got to throw Garth out there. It's different. It's
so much more
very, very
different
different.
than that. Yeah, so much more complicated than that. That's the Super Bowl I went to. I just had that one up on screen. If you know, you know. All right, that does it for us. We're done. Here we go. B French says, and I appreciate you getting back to me, B French. I am 40 and maybe out of touch with music these days. Maybe I'm not cultured enough, but I will stand on my mountain. Bad Bunny was horrible. Look, doesn't have to be for you. That's okay, and I appreciate you getting back to us.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for you to also acknowledge the math and the science of it. That's all that we're saying. You have to acknowledge the reality. And this is what I'm dealing with in group chats right now. Everyone's like, oh, Alan Jackson's a legend. He would be a great halftime show. I'm like, Alan Jackson has a 0% chance.
He's also retiring.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
famously.
supposedly. At Nissan Stadium.
Yeah. So tune in next week when I talk more about seed oils and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. I'm sorry we ran out of time, that we couldn't get more in depth in the oeuvre of Big Bad Voodoo Daddy and the scientific benefits or lack thereof of seed oils. We'll get into that more next week, but we've talked for 20 minutes longer than we normally do. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Braden, take us out.
Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Make sure you go to Sinkers Beverages. Thank you guys all for listening. And what I really I'm just going to say this here. What I really love about the chat over here is that we are not so sensitive and such big babies, big bad voodoo babies, that we can handle a tiny little bit of controversial discussion about topics that are a little bit more complicated, and everyone is still cool about it because we're all going to be fine. And I really appreciate about all you in the comments being able to get into topics that normally on other places would drive people insane. It's not that hard. We're all more resilient than we think. We all can handle a little disagreement and a little criticism, or disagree on these things and that thing, and we're still okay. It's all good. Go to Tennessean.com. Listen to all the other shows across the 440 Sports Network. And if you want to really deep dive into the business of the Super Bowl, please check out Mainstream Sports with me and Paul Kaharski. Joe's pissed. I appreciate that. Titans fans, be excited about what we saw on their very first day of OTAs in 2026. Football season just a few months away, so get excited about that, and I think that's okay to do as well. Enjoy the weekend. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. For Nick, I am Braden. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you next time.